Thank you.
Please be seated.
Hereby I open this academic ceremony at Maastricht University. My name is Ton de Groei. I am the pro-rector of the ceremony and chair of the degree committee. First of all, I would like to welcome Mrs. Yingyi Wu. She will defend in public her academic thesis, Sitting Smartly in Tertiary Education, exploring strategies to tackle sedentary behavior for students' cognitive and physical well-being. Welcome all members of the degree committee, in particular the two supervisors of the in total 4 supervisors. Opposite for me are Professor Hans Zavelberg. He is Professor of Evolving Academic Education at Maastricht University. Professor Renate de Groot, she is Professor of Biopsychology of Learning at the Open University of the Netherlands, and not present, they are not able to come at this ceremony, are Professor Bert op het Einde. He is Professor of Exercise Physiology and Sports Medicine at the University of Hasselt in Belgium. And a co-supervisor is Dr. Pascal van Gerven. He is Associate Professor of Cognitive Function and Medical Education at Maastricht University. I will introduce the 6 opponents later during the ceremony. I welcome here the audience in the aula and also of all followers of the live stream. Mrs. Yingyi Wu, may I invite you to present a summary of your thesis? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear Rector, thesis committee, dear supervisors, colleagues, family, and friends, I would like to share with you my research entitled Sitting Smartly in Tertiary Education, Exploring Strategies to Tackle Sedentary Behavior for Students' Cognitive and Physical Well-Being. So sitting in class is the norm. In tertiary education, physical education classes and after-school sports activities are no longer provided. So students in tertiary education tend to sit more and exercise less after their secondary education. So someone might ask, why sitting bothers? Well, when you are sitting, your whole body muscle activity is very low. Research has shown that sedentary behavior is bad for your physical health and may impair your cognitive function as well. So if you think of your body as a machine, reducing or interrupting sedentary behavior changes the resting mode into the active mode by recruiting more muscles. So by doing so, it's beneficial for physical health and can maintain or improve cognitive function. So given that adolescents and young adults spend a significant amount of time in school or on campus, the first main research question is to what extent the educational setting, that is academic schedule, education program in tertiary education, is linked to students with activity behavior. The second main research question follows: how can sedentary behavior be tackled? What are the feasible and effortless strategies to promote physical and cognitive well-being of students in tertiary education? To answer the first research question, we recruited 126 first-year biomedical science students from Maastricht University and KU Leuven. Why Maastricht University and KU Leuven? Well, Maastricht University uses problem-based learning as its educational format, while KU Leuven uses the lecture-based curriculum. So it turns out that Maastricht University has less scheduled education time than KU Leuven. And we already mentioned that sitting is the norm and is mandatory for students to sit in class. Therefore, we hypothesize that the less scheduled education time the students have, the less sitting than they will do. In addition, we also take into account the self-study time that students at both universities spend on weekdays and weekends. So in this bar chart, blue represents Maastricht University, orange represents KU Leuven. If you're looking at this bar chart, students at Maastricht University spend on average much less scheduled education on a weekday than students at KU Leuven. However, students at Maastricht University significantly had more self-study time than students at KU Leuven on a weekday and also on a weekend day. But in general, their total schoolwork time per day will comparable, which suggests that the study program at both universities have a similar study load. So if we look at the horizontal axis, we introduced sedentary time and LPA. LPA means light intensity physical activity, like standing, walking, light housework, light stretching, or warming up. Looking at both figures, surprisingly, students at Maastricht University did not sit less and move more than students at KU Leuven on weekdays. Instead, students at both universities spent 9 hours 48 minutes sitting per day on average, while at weekends, Maastricht University students spent more sitting time and a little bit less LPA than KU Leuven students. When we examined the relationship between academic schedule and physical activity behavior, we found out that scheduled education time was not associated with sedentary time and LPA, while self-study time was positively associated with sedentary time and negatively associated with light intensity physical activity. To further investigate our first research question, we conducted a second study in a vocational education and training setting. 155 students were recruited from the 4 different education programs: administration, hairdressing, nursing, and sports. Different education programs have different requirements of physical activity behavior. For example, administrative students sit more and hairdressing students stand more. However, it remains unknown whether these differences of physical activity behavior occur during school time or leisure time. Hourly activity patterns between education programs on weekdays and weekend days separately. This slide chart illustrates daily activity patterns on weekdays. We taking sitting time as an example. On horizontal axis, time slots are from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. Time 7 means 1 hour from 6 to 7 a.m. and so forth. And in the vertical axis shows the average time of sitting per hour. So you can see the large variations in hourly sitting time from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. between the 4 education programs. If you look at daily activity patterns on weekend, there are no significant differences in sitting patterns between the education programs. combine other variables such as standing time and stepping time. I didn't show here, but we can conclude together that these differences in this activity behavior between the education programs mainly occurred during school time instead of during leisure time. So to answer the second main research question, we highlight light intensity physical activity as a feasible strategy to interrupt prolonged sitting. And in this study, 21 young adults completed 3 sitting conditions: sitting every 25 minutes, interrupting by 5 minutes walking, prolonged sitting with demanding cognitive activities, adult sitting without a demanding cognitive task. So cognitive performance and mood were assessed before and after each condition. So attention is easy to understand. Response inhibition is the ability to control impulses and stop you from doing something. For example, now you are in this aula and you want to sing and dance when I'm talking, but response inhibition helps you keep quiet and leave it for the later party. And task shifting is the ability to shift your focus from one task to another. For example, you are working on your thesis and your classmates ask you to do a group assignment. And the task shifting allows you to pause your writing and discuss with your classmate, and then you return to your writing without losing track. Working memory updating is the ability to keep information and to keep information in your mind and update it as new information comes in. For example, you are following a recipe to bake a cake. As you add ingredients, you keep track what you already added and what's the next. And suddenly, you realize you forgot to put dark chocolate. Okay, then you will adjust your plan and incorporate it into the recipe. So the working memory updating allows you to hold on to information and make changes as you go along. So what happens here? The results shows frequent LIPA breaks or cognitively demanding activities have a acute positive impact on task shifting compared to adult sitting. To further tackle sedentary behavior, we conducted another study. We know that sitting while working or studying leads to muscle inactivity, and sedentary behavior has detrimental effects on health. While walking activates lower body muscles, which is healthy but may interfere with desk work. So we wondered whether active sitting alternatives that recruit more muscles, such as sitting on a yoga board, could result in comparable levels in muscle activity to walking. 21 young adults performed these active sitting conditions, and the abdominal, back, and leg muscles and a perceived discomfort level was measured during a 5 minutes typing work. Muscle activation was also measured during a 5 minute self-paced working as well. So the result shows no significant difference were found in muscle activity between sitting straight on a yoga board and sitting straight on a chair. They both resulted in much lower muscle activity than walking. But sitting and moving on a yoga board results in comparable levels of muscle activity as walking, but at the cost of perceived comfort. So, to summarize, I have some take-home messages. Students with activity behavior in tertiary education is linked to the educational setting. the acute effect of walking breaks improve task shifting compared to uninterrupted sitting. Sitting and studying is different from sitting passively watching TV regarding cognitive performance. Tailored health interventions are necessary for students in programs that require prolonged sitting. The effectiveness of light intensity activity on cognitive performance and the practice use, the feasibility of active sitting alternatives need further investigation. Thank you for your time. Well, I'm not responsible for your sedentary time, so please allow me to ask you to stand up and stretch your leg and move a little bit. Now I hand the floor back to the rector. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Yingyi Wu, for your clear summary of your thesis. Thank you very much. The opposition will be opened by the chair of the Thesis Assessment Committee, Professor Mirjam Oude-Egberink. She is Professor of Implementation of Educational Innovations at Maastricht University. Professor Oude-Egberink.
Thank you. Dear candidate, first of all, I would like to congratulate you with your studies and your thesis and also your supervisory team. I have read it with great interest. It is timely and relevant, the topic, and the thesis is well written, so compliments for that.
Thank you.
Your study and also those of others show that university students sit a lot, between 9 to 10 hours a day, which is clearly not healthy. You also show that this is not the same in all studies. Hairdressing students, for example, appear to sit significantly less, only about 6 hours during school days. Maybe we should advise our university students to take up hairdressing as a serious hobby in the evening times. You studied ways to tackle that sedentary behavior of students. In chapter 4 of your thesis, you did this by introducing light intensity physical activities, LIPAs, of 5 minutes to break up sitting time. And you measured the effect on cognitive performance. This intervention appeared to have only limited effects on task shifting.
Yeah.
In this study, you worked with university students. And university students are young, relatively healthy, relatively active, and have a relatively high cognitive ability. So I wondered whether it could be that the choice of this particular population for this study was the reason that you did not find so much effect on cognitive performance, because there may be only limited room for improvement in people that already have a relatively high cognitive functioning. What is your response to that?
Highly esteemed opponent, thank you for your encouragements and compliments, and thank you for your question. I think it's a very good question. So yeah, indeed, we did experiment on university students, and when we choose the cognitive test, we take this into consideration. So, for example, like the D2 attention test, the original one is 20 seconds per line, and we shortened into 15 seconds. And also, I think is a lot of research shows that the elders has cognitive decline, and sometimes these kind of physical activity interventions is more has larger effect size on the elders. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean like, okay, because we are in our peak of cognitive performance, then we don't need to take care of it. Actually, if we can exercise well, we can interrupting our sedentary behavior, even we can grow new neurons and maybe benefit for our brain health.
Okay,
yeah.
So if I understand it correctly, you made the tests more difficult?
Yeah.
To enhance the chance that there could be improvement measured?
And yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. Then to go on to something you say in your general discussion, which is chapter 6, There you state that the effect of taking breaks from sitting on cognitive performance depends on the intensity, on the frequency, and on the duration of the physical activity that is performed during these breaks.
Yes.
You recognize that?
Yeah.
So literature indicates that short but frequent MVPA breaks, so moderate to vigorous physical activities, have a significant effect on cognitive performance. While LIPA breaks seem to have more effect when their duration is longer. Yeah? Suppose you were allowed to repeat study 4 or chapter 4.
Yeah.
Would you then include 2 additional groups? One with frequent short MVPA breaks and one with long LIPA breaks?
Yes, the answer is yes,
Yeah?
I will. Yeah.
How would you do that?
I think this idea, my colleague Ren Yan will continue the intervention study, and she will also include different phys activity interventions regarding the duration, the intensity. Yeah, and you want the proposal?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
for example, when you look at more frequent MVPA breaks, how would you do that?
Well, usually when we are talking about phys activity, we can simplify as aerobic exercise, and then we have LPA, the MVPA, and then we also have the strength exercise. So some research already shows that during strength exercise can be benefit for brain health. So maybe if I want to design a study in future, actually I want to add, we call it exercise snacks between sittings. Like for example, after 30 minutes or 1 hour sitting, you do some squats or push-ups.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not running, but squash.
Yeah.
Squats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Running is not that feasible, I think. So yeah.
Okay, it would be some kind of fitness
Yes.
practices. And the longer duration LIPA activities,
Yeah.
would that be, for example, let them stand for the whole period?
From my understanding and in my opinion, I don't think standing all day is a solution. So the key message is to interrupt sitting. Actually, no matter which intensity of its activity, any intensity of its activity is good, and especially for people who are sitting too much.
Okay, so not 4 hours standing with sitting breaks.
Yeah. I think, from my opinion, I think it's not the case that we should struggling or we too focused on the optimal. Instead, we don't want to scale the audience. We don't. I think for the public health, the message should be, any intensity phys activity is good, as long as you can choose what you like, you feel comfortable, and start with 1,000 steps, 2,000 steps, instead of we had a standpoint for 10,000 steps is only the way.
Yeah. Can I ask a small question? Yeah. Well, I read your proposition 5. I won't ask you to read it now, but I'm the Vice Dean of Education of our faculty. So what would you recommend me now to do to help the students?
Well, the simple answer could be, first, I want to stimulate the awareness of sedentary behavior and light intensity phys activity. And actually, I noticed that in our inner city library, there's a small poster, and it says, during study, it's nice that you can go outside in that green garden and take a break and get some fresh air. I think it's very nice action that our well-being office at Maastricht University have done. But the thing is, I also noticed a very interesting thing is that they have much bigger poster for like, okay, you need to be there instead of only make a reservation and some other regulations, very big. But this kind of good advice only has a very small
one.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think, okay, maybe we can share some lights on that poster.
So I will have to contact our marketing and communication office to change that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Oude-Egbrink. The next opponent is Professor Delphine van Dijk. She is Professor of Physical Activity and Health at Ghent University in Belgium. She is not here present, but you can see her on the screen. Professor van Dijk, the floor.
Thank you. Dear Promovenda, first of all, like my other colleague also did, I really want to congratulate you with your work. You really wrote a nice, important, well-written thesis. And I really liked the combination of both experimental studies and also some observational studies. So you really showed that you are capable of doing quite a big diversity of studies and analyses. So well done. I have, of course, some questions where I want to discuss with you about today. And my first question is mainly related to the observational study you did in chapter 2, so your first study. And you state also in that study, but also in your dissertation, that because of the fact that it is an observational study, that you cannot make causal conclusions. But still, in your recommendations, in your research, you still make some recommendations that are a bit causal, because you say, okay, there is an association between self-study time and sedentary behavior, and maybe we should do something about this self-study time. So that's a bit of a causal claim. I also gave you some literature, so some interesting papers about causality in observational studies and about the role of confounders there. So I want to hear your thoughts about the role of confounding in general in observational studies, and also in particular in this study, in your first study, how confounding could play a role here and which confounders might be important.
Thank you for your question, esteemed opponent. And also thank you for share the interesting and insightful articles with me. Yes, after I reading the articles, I realized I was in the trap. Like, okay, this is observational study, and I know the standard rule is that we cannot really have the causality assumption. But when I really write down the recommendation, I still, I did so, and I was in that trap. But I did the simplest action is I delete them for the updated version. But what I want to say is that I also learned from that article is though we have observational studies, but it's not the good way that we scared of casual thinking. I think if we use a right method, still we can estimate the potential results, especially in nutrition and physical activity, because some studies, we cannot really perform randomized trials. And if I combine the confounders in my study, I think in future studies, I would to ask more details from student side. Like actually, in my original questionnaire, I ask if they are standing when they are studying. But unfortunately, no one really did so. So that's why I combined these variables together and only leave the scheduled education time and self-study time. And definitely, one of confounder is the individual factor. Everyone is different, and some has a higher motivation to the physical activity, some has lower. And another is the social environment outside education setting, for example, the home, and even your parents may have some can I say impact? Yeah, on your physical activity behavior, and also the environmental facilities, like how our no matter public transportation, and also how our room shaped. I find out home, working place, university, school, library. These buildings are try to minimize human movements. So I think that's also something we can looking for in future.
Thank you. That's a really strong answer, and I'm happy that you learned from the papers I sent you. Then one final question, taking into account the time I have. You are talking about potential interventions also in your PhD, and of course it's important that these interventions have a long-term effect and that students or other populations find them feasible. So I'm asking how you would implement an intervention in the future to make the chances for long-term effects as high as possible. So to make sure that people really do it, because you can provide everything, but sometimes people just don't do it. So what are your thoughts on that? How would you do that?
I think it's very nice question. And if I have the opportunity, definitely I will choose Maastricht University students. And I think one idea jump out in my mind is actually I really prefer the how we call it real life interventions. So for example, we can give a freshman at Maastricht University a healthy package, and then we of course we will have control group, and we really track their physical activity behavior, and also to have a more detailed questionnaire to ask more details. For example, if they live with their parents, or like how they commuting to the school. This kind of more details, then we have a bigger general picture. I'm
sorry to interrupt you. We are going out of time, so we have to move on to the next opponent.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can talk later.
Thank you, Professor van Dijk. The next opponent is Dr. Hartman. She is Associate Professor of Physical Activity and Cognition at Groningen University. Dr. Hartman.
Thank you. Dear candidates, congratulations with the thesis, and also for your supervisors, congratulations. You focused in your thesis on too much sitting, which is an important health-threatening problem. And I think your results may contribute to tackling this problem in young people, so you did a great job. First of all, I would like to discuss with you on Chapter 2. You studied relationships between educational time and physical activity behavior in two academic settings, Maastricht University and Leuven University. I would like to have a look at the models you constructed. In the analysis, you did not include body mass index, BMI. My first question is, why not?
Esteemed component, thank you for your question, and thank you for driving so far away from Groningen. Thank you for being present. So the BMI here. Oh yes. Yeah, I think from my understanding, that's a choice I need to make. And though we find, if we look at page 24, we can see the BMI, the students at Maastricht University significantly has higher BMI than the KU Leuven students. But I don't put it because I think in general they are not obese populations, and I made a choice to make the model simple.
Mm-hmm. But I was so curious about the results because I think you're right that you indicated that BMI has a relationship with the university department. Yeah. But we also know from studies that it could also be related to their physical activity behavior. So less physical activity in more, not overweight students, but higher BMI. Could that be the case? Or could it be an important confounder?
I think, I think it could be a confounder, of course. I think after this ceremony, I will run a model and include this BMI and check if they have big differences.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the results.
Yeah. Yes, and
then
I will send you email.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Then I would like to move on to the conclusion of this chapter. You conclude that we should focus on changing physical activity behavior during self-study instead of during scheduled education time. Could you comment on that? So why did you make that choice, also in your recommendation? Why should we focus on self-study time for interventions?
So indeed, in the conclusions, I share some lines for the self-study time because we find out, at Maastricht University is quite a special case that though Maastricht University students has less scheduled education time, but they tend to redistribute their self-study time more evenly during the week, and they also spend a larger proportion on self-study than the scheduled education time, and why I think is also important is that if we can stimulate students' awareness of sedentary behavior, maybe when they really do self-study, they will choose more physically active way instead of still sitting. Because currently, sitting in class is the norm, but you can freely choose outside the class. So that's why I want to shed some light on self-study time.
Yeah, and when you would focus on those self-study time, would you recommend to focus on the window of opportunity during the week at university or during the weekend, during leisure time? What would be the best option and why?
I think this is a very interesting question, but I have no answer, and it's not in my thesis. But from my understanding, I think, it's hard to say because, indeed, problem-based learning has less scheduled education time, but because of you have a lot of assignments for the problem-based learning tutorials, so you have to sit. But I think if Maastricht University can if they have enough budget, they can introduce more standing desks, or even try to sitting less during class, and also change a little bit in city library, in Maastricht University library. And I think there are some standing desks in there, but the using rate is very low from my individual observation.
Thank you for your answers.
Yes, thank you.
Give the word back to the prorector.
Thank you, Dr. Hartman. The next opponent is Dr. Kenneth Meyer. He is Associate Professor of Biomechanics and Motion Analysis at Maastricht University. Dr. Meyer.
Thank you. Dear candidate, first of all, also my compliments with a very nice thesis. Also my compliments to your supervisory team. I think the front picture reflects your fine taste in style. It looks great. It also seems to suggest that on this side of the river, or actually the other side of the river, life is a lot more fun than on this side of the river. So we have to talk about that later. I'd like to start with proposition number 10, and maybe one of your paronyms can read it out for me. And I would like to ask you what you mean by this proposition, so you can already start thinking about this.
Proposition number 10. Sit as little as possible. Do not believe any idea that was not born in the open air and of free movement, in which the muscles do not also revel. Sitting still is the real sin against the Holy Ghost.
Okay, I guess he left out the reference, but that's okay. What do you mean with this proposition? What's your purpose?
Esteemed opponent, thank you for your question, and thank you for the time we spent together. So for this proposition, first of all, I like this philosopher, this German philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, and I find out in history there are so many famous people with wisdom they highly recommend, and they also self-practice walks in the city or even in the green park. For example, Charles Dickens, the English writer, he is a walking lover, and I think he can even walking 30 miles a day.
Yeah, and this is maybe where my confusion comes from. So I guess I have to read Nietzsche once more. But I work a lot with elderly people and who have a higher risk of falling, and there we have this quote saying, "Stop talking while walking," which to me seems to indicate that if you start to walk, that actually your mental capacities become less. So, and if you want to talk, you have to stop walking to address those mental capacities. So how does that, because this seems to suggest if you start to walk, then you free your mind and you open your spirit and all these things. Is that something special in elderly subjects? Is that something that we might have to consider in younger subjects as well, who might have less mental capacities and they definitely should not walk. What's your...
Okay, if I understand correctly, you mean in the interventions on elders, it's not recommended to talking while walking.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, right? I think because elders, they have less better cognitive performance compared to young populations, and for them it could be cognitive overload, so they cannot really managing the dual task or triple task at the same time. But I think for young adults it's not the case.
Yeah, I thought it might relate to specific... Cognition is a very broad concept.
Yeah.
In one of your studies you showed, you tested for cognition, you had 4 different items, and it's only the task shifting that was affected by the breaks. So do you have an idea on how physical behavior more specifically positively influences the cognitive abilities? Is this only via this task shifting, or is it?
Well, I cannot give you an accurate answer for this question because from my study is acute effects, and I only have 4-hour prolonged sitting, and we only find task shifting was improved. But if we can extend our intention duration, it could be changed. And there are other research shows the intervention, the physical activity interventions improved other domains of cognitive performance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask one short question? Because I do want to ask something about Chapter 5. I know you feared this. And I have a very simple question. So standing desks, you refer to that, are very modernist, and they're used as a physical activity intervention. And to my surprise, you did not study standing in Chapter 5. Why is this?
And you may give a short answer, please.
Okay. Yeah, again, is a choice I need to make. I also feel if I include standing decks, it would be perfect. Yeah, but I think I choose yoga boards because I like yoga board, and I think it's a nice way to explore the active sitting alternatives because it can activate our deep core muscles. Though here I cannot measure it, but I believe it can help.
Thanks a lot. I give the word back to the pro-rector.
Thank you very much, Dr. Meijer. The opposition will be continued by Dr. Annemarie Koster. She is Associate Professor of Physical Activity and Epidemiology at Maastricht University. Dr. Koster.
Thank you. Dear candidate, also I would like to first congratulate you with your work and your thesis and also your team. It's an important topic and I've read your thesis with great interest. And I would like to start with the question, your very first question of Chapter 2. Which says, university students sit too much. What's too much? Can you give me a number?
Okay, so based on the public health evidence, there is no gold standard number yet. But usually a lot of, because there's a lot of observational studies to investigate the relationship between sedentary behavior and a lot of chronic disease, cancers, and all-cause mortality. So if I have to give a number, I think 8 hours sitting. Yeah, but the number is fluid. It really depends on what diseases we are talking about.
Because indeed the recommendations do not quantify sedentary behavior yet.
Yeah.
Then I would like to move from the very first part of your thesis to the very last part of your thesis and the very last paragraph of your impact chapter. And there I read a sentence that got my attention, and I quote, "Sedentary behavior is unhealthy and should be avoided for health and well-being." If I would replace, end quote, if I would replace sedentary behavior by, for example, smoking, I would totally agree with you. But in the current form, I wonder, is that really right? Should we avoid sedentary behavior? Should we avoid any sedentary behavior?
Thank you for your interesting question. I think in the chapter 4, we find out sitting and studying is different from sitting passively watching TV. So definitely, yes, different types, and a lot of research already shows that different types of sitting, like what activities you are really doing, if you are playing game, using electronic devices, or sitting on the sofa watching TV, and also accompanied with a lot of junk food, Coca-Cola, chips, is definitely different.
But do you still think we should not sit anymore then? Are we all unhealthy as we are here, what we're doing now? Except yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not against sitting. Sitting is comfortable, and sometimes we need it. We need to chill and relax, and we also feel good. But the thing is, I think we shouldn't we shouldn't get too much pleasure or comfort from sitting. So
okay,
it's better.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Then I have another question, different topic. About chapter 3 and about the methods of this study. You included 230 people. They agreed to participate, and only you mentioned that active PAL data were available for 155 students only. So you have a response rate of about 67%. And I was wondering, what were the reasons that did people not want to wear the device, or was the data not good? And could this have introduced any bias, selection bias, for example?
Thank you for your question. I think, I will try to answer, because I think Assistant Professor Rihanna knows much better about the details. So I will answer firstly, and please correct me if I understand wrong. So yes, because it's very, for all the observational study, is voluntary, no paid, and participants are freely to drop out. So in this study, we have a very high dropout rate. It is what it is, and to really frame this chapter 3, I need to make criteria for the physical activity behavior patterns. So that's why I also need to clean the data, and it turns out we have some missing data.
But for example, did you compare the group that was included in your study versus the original, the total group, to get a bit of an idea of potential bias in the selection that you do your analysis in?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I didn't do so, but I can do it after.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your answer, and I give the word back to the prolector.
Thank you very much, Dr. Koster. The next and last opponent is Dr. Rianne Goldstein. She is Associate Professor of Health Sciences and Health Psychology at the Open University of the Netherlands. Dr. Goldstein.
Thank you. Dear candidate, first of all, I would also like to compliment you with the nice work you produced, and also your supervisors. It's a nice comprehensive collection of studies that complement each other very nice and provide insights from various perspectives. I would like to discuss with you about Chapter 3, and maybe to introduce that, I would like to ask one of your paranymphs to read out Proposition 5.
Proposition 5. Institutions for tertiary education and educational policymakers should take responsibility for changing educational settings with a series of feasible strategies for students' health and well-being.
Well, in this proposition, you state that it's kind of the responsibility of educational institutions or educational policymakers to implement interventions to improve physical activity patterns or behavior. Yet, if we look in detail into the findings of Chapter 3, then the comparison between week and weekend days and the hourly variations show that except for sports students, all vocational education and training students from other tracks show similar physical activity patterns during leisure time and not during school time. So I was wondering if taking that into consideration, it wouldn't be more appropriate to implement interventions that change physical activity patterns during leisure time. And in that perspective, if it's the responsibility of school educational policymakers and educational institutions. What is your opinion on that?
Well, in my proposition, I think I didn't mean is all the institutions or educational policymakers' responsibility. Of course, the individual is an important factor. Like they know what they are doing, or they choose what they want. But in my study, especially in Chapter 3. I agree, because we indeed find out sports students during their leisure time, they are not that active anymore compared to their office activity during weekdays. So that's the part they need to do something outside of class. But for the Chapter 3, my recommendation is more like we should more focused on the education programs, the students who sitting too much. For example, like administrative students, you can see the detailed pattern, like especially from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, it's really prolonged sitting. They even don't have sit to stand transitions. And I think if the educational setting promote the office activity, then we keep it. And if they don't, I think at least the educational setting should allow students to freely stand up during class even, instead of students feel awkward or change the social norm.
Mm-hmm. So if I understand correctly, you should suggest to use tailored interventions. From my background, I know a little bit about tailored interventions. But I was wondering, you gave an example for administrative students, which is kind of obvious because they have this prolonged sitting. But for the other tracks, what kind of interventions would you have in mind for them?
The other groups I find out actually they are quite physically active due to their education programs requirements. But I think the institutions and also the educational policymakers maybe should focus on still stimulating their awareness, then help them outside of class time. They can continue or interrupt a sitting instead of, for example, sports students. they can be exercise lover and also being sedentary at the same time. So we call it active couch potatoes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then I have one more question about chapter 3. That is also related to your findings in chapter 2. Because in chapter 2, you show that university students show substantial amounts of self-study time during weekend days, whereas in study in chapter 3, you define weekend days as leisure time. But I was wondering, is that still valid if they also do self-study in the weekends?
I think in this special in these two studies, because students they choose to sit when they have self-study, and we can call it is also their leisure time, and they choose to self-study, and they can choose to watch TV, whatever activities. But the thing is, if the students aware of sitting too much is bad for their health, maybe they will choose standing desks or interrupting their sitting. Yeah.
Yeah, but is it then still leisure time?
Yeah, yes, their leisure time and.
Yes, Mr. Yingyi Wu, you have seen and heard that the time for defending your thesis has passed. The committee will now withdraw to discuss the quality of your thesis and in particular the quality of your defense, and please await our return.
Okay.
All right, please.
The PhD defense has now ended. The degree committee will debate the candidate's performance behind closed doors. This process usually takes about 10 minutes.
Long road to the south side. 10 miles in my rearview mirror, I know what it felt like. My goals only getting clearer, east side to the west side. No place like home, if it's questions that you've got, go the extra mile and die. The line, I know you know that I can't read your mind. Years can't fly by now, don't waste all your time. Cause I'll go the extra mile. Long road to the south side, 10 miles in my rearview mirror, I know what it felt like. My goals only getting clearer, east side to the west side. No place like home, if it's questions that you've got, go the extra mile and die. On the dash, got my laces tied. Long road, I don't waste no time. Break rules because fate decides. With the team and we chase the light. I make a move, fall down, shake it off. I hate to lose, bad branch, break it off. No room for negativity, praise and love. Prepare for deep part cause we're taking off. Get the mileage, traveling so far from home. Gathering knowledge, other connections. I put the time in to get everything I ever hoped for. It's a challenge and we all in. It's a better future that we go for. And even though these nights seem long, I know that I am never on my own. Know you've won the battle once you've grown. South side, 10 miles in my rearview mirror, I know what it felt like. My goals only getting clearer, east side to the west side. No place like home. If it's questions that you've got, go the extra mile and that. Long road to the south side, 10 miles in my rearview mirror. I know what it felt like. My goals only getting clearer. East side to the west side. No place like home. If it's questions that you've got, go the extra mile and that. Years can't fly by now, don't waste all your time. 'Cause I'll go the extra mile.
blood sampling part, all aspects of those. Okay, I have to go back to that.
All right, please. Please be seated.
Mrs. Yingyi Wu, the committee here present has assessed the quality of your thesis and the quality of your defense, and in view of a positive verdict and taking into account your previous qualifications, the committee has decided to grant you the degree of doctor. And Professor Savelberg is authorized to confer upon you this academic distinction in accordance with Dutch university custom and law. I invite now your supervisor to take the floor. Professor Savelberg.
All right, please.
Dear candidates, do you promise to work in accordance with the principles of scientific integrity at all times, to be careful and honest, transparent, independent, and responsible?
Yes, I promise.
Then by the authority vested in us by law and in conformity with decisions of the committee here present, I hereby confer upon you, Yingyi Wu, the degree of doctor and grant you all rights attached by custom and law. As evidence of this, I now present you with the degree certificate signed by the rector, the secretary, and the other members of the committee, and affixed with the official seal of the university.
Esteemed Dr. Wu, dear Yingyi, respect, infinite respect from your entire supervisory team, including Bert and Pascal as well. And I expect the entire audience for how you persevered, how you just did the defense, and how you are now standing here as brand new doctor. You more than deserve all the praise and love you will get today, and I have the honor to praise you and congratulate you first. Somewhere in your PhD trajectory, when we had a kind of mentoring talk among the two of us, was the moment that I started to compare you with a butterfly. You indicated that you wanted to fly around, free and autonomously, visiting different places, work in different European countries, as for my perception, a butterfly. But you felt a kind of captured in the structure of your PhD, your visa requirements, and the CSC scholarship requirements. But now you are that butterfly, free, invigorated, and happy, while invigorating others as butterflies do. We got to know you, Yingyi, as a caterpillar already back in late 2017. You applied for a CSC project to investigate the biological mechanisms underlying the impact of physical activity on cognitive performance. You and Hans had a first introductory chat, and by the end of 2018, Pascal van Gerwen, Bert Oppeteinde, and myself were invited to join your supervisory team. It has always been a joy to work with you. We noticed that you have an amazing ability to adapt to entirely new situations. Being dropped in Maastricht as a PhD candidate from China who has never been to Europe before must have been a life-changing and challenging experience for you. And that was in November 2018. And since then, you have developed in a versatile researcher, became familiar with a broad range of research methods and statistical techniques. At the same time, you have shown an impressive learning curve regarding your English language skills, both spoken and written. Although that English still has some challenges for you. Do you remember mixing around terms like figure one or finger one? Yeah. And also, even last week, the term layman's talk was completely new for you. But I think, and with me probably the others also, that you gave a great layman's talk today. Caterpillars are highly social, cooperating while foraging, defending together against predators, and building shelters together. Although, as supervisory team, we didn't get to know you that well on a more personal level, you must be a highly social person, as you have a very active life in the Chinese community and made many new friends. If I see the list of people you thank at the end of your thesis, I think you could have filled a whole thesis with solely thanking people, which shows that you are really a highly social caterpillar. In case I may describe myself and the rest of our supervisory team as the predators you had to defend yourself for, hopefully not too much, I can only say that you did that in a very charming way. Over the years, you learned to defend yourself in our academic debates, and you tried to please us by bringing us all presents like delicious Chinese tea after your trip back home to China. But as caterpillar, you also defended yourself with the help of some friends against discriminating roommates and awful landlords. You literally had to manage, with the help of your friends, to find a new shelter. At a certain moment, caterpillars start to forage. That is, eating a lot to cope with the plant transformation into a butterfly. Your foraging was the foraging of technical skills. You consumed so much technical knowledge and skills that you could apply different methodologies, varying from observational studies with active pelt technologies to electromyogram experimental study designs. The statistical analysis were also no real challenges for you. You consumed that with so much fun and joy that you almost have overeaten yourself and got lost in those analyses. Luckily, there was always Bjorn, as an adult butterfly, taking care for you and your foraging of statistical analysis by offering you a shelter to those horrible predating supervisors with their difficult questions. Challenges are, of course, inherent to a PhD project. Your PhD project was complex in terms of the variation in methodology, the multiple institutes involved, the large supervisory team, consisting of no less than 3 full professors and 1 associate professor, each having their own opinion, a strong opinion often. A heavy first-year evaluation in the beginning of 2020, just before the corona crisis, and finally the corona crisis itself, which came with its own challenges. In retrospect, this might have been the time that you slowly formed a cocoon. And no, not only a social cocoon, like all of us in corona times, no, really a cocoon, like the caterpillar does. And do you have any idea what happens with the caterpillar when it enters a cocoon? I always intuitively expected it slowly transforms into a butterfly, but I was wrong. In the cocoon, a caterpillar degrades to a kind of slime. just a set of cells, which then reform into the butterfly. Hence, it's just a big mess, which is needed to become the butterfly. And you also had to overcome an exceptional amount of slime, a real big mess. Corona made the social connection impossible. Getting in touch with your family and friends was hard. Traveling back home for a visit was almost impossible. But extension of your visa was extremely difficult too. This was the start of a real hard time. You as a person also retreated into your own cocoon. Despite the many online meeting facilities, it was also very difficult for us as a supervisory team to get in touch with you for a period. Apparently, you needed this time to transform into a butterfly. There was much hard work needed and perseverance getting through the slime. You dealt with each of these challenges with a staggering amount of stamina. Your kind, patient, and reinvented positive attitude did the rest. The butterfly was born. An incredible, strong, and colorful butterfly. Now, today, we see the butterfly Yingyi in full glory, released from the slime and the burden, grown as a person and professional. Yingyi, you can be rightfully extremely proud of your achievements. And I strongly say your achievement, because I'm very much aware that we as supervisors really did not always make it easy for you. Regularly, you indicated that you would have disappointed us and that you would like to do better for us, so much that you questioned whether you would become a good researcher. Well, Yingyi, I can now say with full conviction and on behalf of the entire team, you have grown into a beautiful butterfly. You are a great researcher and we wish you to fly out into the wide world and explore it. On behalf of all 4 supervisors, I wholeheartedly congratulate you and your family and friends with this achievement. Being a caterpillar, I think it is hard to imagine you will ever be the butterfly. But you did it. You underwent an impressive journey, wrote an impressive thesis, and today impressed us all with your defense. So for today and the rest of your days, forget about the slime, let out the butterfly, fly away, and explore the world. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Esteemed Dr. Yingyi Wu, dear Yingyi, it's my great pleasure to congratulate you with your doctorate and the honor that you have acquired today. And I do that also on behalf of Maastricht University. And I would like to share some impressions from the committee with you. We have seen a very clear presentation of the summary of your thesis, and I hope that people here in the aula and also people of the live stream have very well understood what you did the last couple of years in hard working. The thesis has been read critically by all members of this committee, and we consider it as well written, relevant, and an important study, and good studies have been performed. We appreciated your open and also honest answers to our questions, and we realized that was not easy. And you have also demonstrated to be very aware of the scientific basis of your PhD studies. We are very satisfied with your defense. I would like to congratulate not only you, but also your 4 supervisors. 2 of them are present here, Professor Hans Savelberg and Professor Renate de Groot. And, well, we don't see the other 2 supervisors, Professor Bert op het einde and Dr. Pascal van Gerwen. I would like to congratulate you with this result, not only in the form of a very good thesis, but also in terms of publications and a good defense that we have seen today. Congratulations again. I would like to include in my congratulations, of course, also your family and also your previous colleagues and people that have supported you, and also those who have contributed to your studies, and also your friends and other colleagues. So congratulations to all of them. I would like to include my thanking all the members of both committees, the thesis assessment committee as well as this degree committee. Thank you very much for your critically reading the manuscript, having an interesting discussion here. And in particular, I would like to thank the external members of the both committees. And I would like to say that Maastricht University really appreciates your contributions to this academic procedure. I would like to invite Professor van Dijk, because you are still online and on the screen. Oh, I see you here on the screen. Thank you very much, and I would like to invite you to congratulate the young doctor.
Yes, from my side, also a really big congratulations to you. You really did well today, very well, I should say. I was really happy that you also considered the literature I provided you and that you really critically thought about it. So I wish you all of luck in the rest of your career. And I was really honored to be a member of this examination committee. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before I close this ceremony, I would like to ask you to stand here with your two paranymphs and with your degree. And then we will take a picture as long as Professor van Dijk is still on the screen. We will take the picture there. And after that, after closing the ceremony, we would like to have a picture taken with you and the committee. And also we would like to congratulate you in the hall. We do that after the closing of the ceremony. Hereby I close this academic ceremony. I would like to invite you to stay here, and in the meantime we take the picture here and we take the picture in the hall. Hereby I close this academic ceremony. So may I invite you to stand here, and then we will have a photograph taken with Professor van Dijk on the screen.
Recording stopped.